Hey, what's up? This is Torx. I'm doing a deck tech for my build of Marath, which is similar to some of the lists you could see on MTG Top 8. Um, but since I'm not playing with French rules, I could have things like Soul Ring, Mana Crypt. Um, so we'll start with the lands. And there's 39 lands, which is a little on the high side. And that's because Marath uh, likes a lot of mana. Let's just look at Marath. He's got three abilities. Um, his first ability lets you put counters on other creatures, which is the one I use the least amount. My favorite is the second ability, which lets you remove counters and um, deal damage. And the not the third ability, but the third clause of his ability lets you put a token. Usually, I put a 1/1 green elemental token. So that's Marath. He's awesome. He's like a powerhouse. I could see building a deck with just like ramping and trying to cast Marath as much as you can and just shooting down creatures with him. But this is more of like a zoo deck. So for the lands, they're all here. This is contested cliffs, which works well because he is a beast. Um, so it's sometimes it's just cheaper to do this than uh, do this, meaning to fight a creature rather than shoot him down with Marath. Fetch lands. Um, Filter lands. So it's good to have some man lands here, like Raging Ravine. This deck gets swept a lot, and then I've had issues like where you get swept and then uh, they drop a Planeswalker, and sometimes this is like the only thing you got to deal with their Planeswalker. So it's worth it that it comes into play tapped. It's worth having it, I think. And Horizon Canopy is such a good card. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've had to sacrifice it just to draw a card, like when I really needed a card. And sometimes it gets you out of a jam. And then this is the most powerful land that this deck has. Obviously, with Marath, you're making lots of token creatures, and this lets you make huge amounts of green mana. So this first column is mostly like mana accelerants, Soul Ring, of course, Mana Crypt. Uh, they won't help you play Marath earlier, but it'll let you immediately use Marath once you cast him. So that's why they're good here. Um, so we have some of the doors. This column's kind of boring. Birds. Basically, these are all helping you to play Marath on the second turn. These one drop elves, and then Gyre Sage. Uh, he's okay. Like you could put counters on him with Marath, and you can make lots of green mana. But I'd rather just spend that effort getting Guy's Cradle online. He does get pretty big, and he's easy to evolve. Uh, I could see this guy being cut for something better, but overall, I'm kind of happy with him. Bloom Tender's awesome. Once you get Marath online, he's making 3 mana, um, which is enough to break down Marath. A lot of times, I'll play Marath right? And then I immediately start breaking him down. In other words, making like 1/1 tokens just to break him down so I could recast him again as a 5/5. Okay, and the next column is a little organized. These are cards I just think are good, and this is a kind of a good stuff deck. And so Aven Mind Sensor, um, good card. Sword of Feast and Famine, good card. Untapping your lands, making them discard a card is good. Gadak Teague, he is really important because it prevents them from using most sweepers. Um, there's not too many times when you're going to be, adversely affected by his ability, except for some planeswalkers, which we'll look at later. Scavenging Ooze, some graveyard hate. Voices of Resurgence, good against sweepers and good against control. Mother of Ruins, good card. And Hellrider. Marath's making lots of tokens, so this deals lots of damage. It's a good card. So this is my good card pile. Any of these probably could be cut for something else, because as long as you think it's just a better card. I just think these are some good cards that work well with the deck because of you know the features of the deck. Anyway, that didn't make much sense. Let's go to this pile. This is the draw cards pile. So Skull Clamp. This is always an insane card, but in this deck, it's absolutely bonkers because you're making tokens with Marath, and then you're sacrificing them, and the whole thing costs a counter from Marath, 2 mana, and you're drawing 2 cards. So really good, actually, when this comes down. If the game is kind of like going even and you get Skull Clamp, it pretty much takes over the game and it gives you a huge advantage. Mentor of the Meek, I haven't had too much luck with. He's just another creature. He gets swept or he gets removed. You might get a couple of activations out of him. I could see him being replaced or just traded for a good card, because his ability is pretty powerful in this deck. It's just that he doesn't really stick around too much, and he's not as resilient as Skullclamp is, and Sylvian Library, which is just a great staple for a good reason. I don't think I have to explain too much about Sylvan Library. So here's a pile. Let's just put Bloodbraid Elf in this good stuff pile. Linvala. Linvala shuts my deck down. So if I get Briberied, it doesn't shut my deck down, it shuts my commander down. It's good against a lot of other commanders, good against a lot of creatures, especially opponents' creatures with activated abilities. Those are the best ones this is this is against. Colonian Hydra. This card goes really well with Marath. Getting him to stick around a turn is a little tricky. But if he does, you could just play this guy, attack. He's an 8/8 trample. If they don't have removal, you start winning the game really quick. If they do, then it's just another piece of removal they won't have for Marath or some of the other cards. Sorry, I'm organizing this while I'm talking. And Perforus is awesome in this deck because I would like in an opening hand with Perforus, I would like to play Marath on turn 3, Perforus on turn 4, and then start breaking down Marath into tokens just to get free damage, more creatures. Uh, what do you call it? Guy's Cradle starts making lots of mana. Recast Marath. It gets into a good cycle. Perforus dealing 2 damage each time you make the creature. So I think that completes my good stuff pile. We talked about the draw stuff pile. This is the recursion pile. Pretty important because sweepers are a thing, and getting stuff back is always good. Karmic Guide. This is actually like one of the most expensive creatures in my deck, so it's not like I'm going to be using Karmic Guide to like cheat in a fatty. It's not going to work like that. I'm just going to be getting back a utility creature for the most part. And Rel of Arc is great for getting back. A lot of these creatures are power 2 or less, so it's really useful. And Eternal Witness, I don't have to explain him. This is like my combo pile. So Zelius Conscripts, which is a pretty powerful card in EDH. Sometimes people play these humongous creatures. I stole a I forget the name of that creature that's power and toughness equal to your life total. Someone played that, and I stole it with this, and I just won the game with it. But so it's pretty powerful on its own. But then when you add Kiki Jiki, you win the game. So they go together pretty well. And Kiki Jiki also goes with a lot of these creatures. With some enter the battlefield effects, which we haven't talked too much about, but I mean, Kiki Jiki Voice of Resurgence, and you get a free token every turn. Kiki Jiki with Colonian Hydra, and you make like 50 points of damage, somewhere near that, somewhere near 40 to 50 points of damage, because you're doubling the tokens twice. So you could win the turn after Colonian Hydra survives. You play Kiki Jiki, and you win the game. So combo and good. Some more combos. Archangel of Thune. Good card. Whenever you gain life, you get a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Not too many ways to gain life, but Spike Feeder is one in this deck, and whenever you remove a counter from Spike Feeder, you gain 2 life. So he's a 2/2. I'll remove a counter. He's a 1/1. I gained life, so Archangel triggers, and I get a counter on each of my creatures. So my Birds of Paradise just got to be a 1/2, and I'll do it again. And now my Spike Feeder's a 1/1, and I'll gain 2 life, and now Archangel will trigger, and he's back to a 2/2. So you could do that infinite amounts of times. You could auto yield the trigger on Magic Online and just remove the counter, remove counter, remove counter, right click, remove counter, right click, remove counter, and it'll go pretty quick. It's not like you're going to waste too much time. And you just gain a ton of life, and you might just win it on the spot because your Birds of Paradise are now 100, 101 creatures with flying. Some more combos. Giving Marath Death Touch lets him just machine gun down creatures. And so Nightshade Peddler, him being a creature, makes it pretty easy to tutor for, which we'll get to. And he's so cheap, just 2 mana, Soul Bond, and then you have the rest of the mana to just shoot down creatures with Marath. Bacillus Collar, same thing. He gets Death Touch and Lifelink, so it does work well with Archangel of Thune. Um, this one's a little slower than Nightshade Peddler just because of the mana investment. One extra mana, I guess, not such a big deal. And it just feels like there's more of a mana investment with this for some reason. Um, you do get the lifelink, which is good. Um, yeah, I like just shooting creatures down with Marath. It's fun. A lot of people don't like that. They think it's like a cheesy combo. I mean, I think it's just a good idea. If the guy could shoot uh, damage at creatures, why not make it Death Touch? Okay, enough of that. So removal, unexpectedly absence, a new card from Commander 2013, and you could put any non-land permanent into its owner's library, just beneath the top X card. So it's great when someone's going to crack a fetch land, uh, and it's great that it's. I put this in place of Path to Exile, just to try it out, and I mean it's great that it's just any non-land permanent, not just creatures. Uh, but also, people aren't cracking fetch lands every single turn. Some people don't play with fetches, so a lot of the times this is going to be just put it on top of the library and pay as much as X as you can to get it as deep as you can in the library. So the times I've used it, it's been pretty good. I could see it being really good. I could see it being okay. I'm still testing this out. Swords is great. Much better than Path. I hate giving people free land. I'd rather give them life. Have all life you want, um, but don't ramp more. And creature removal, Fiend Hunter. Uh, it's okay. I always hesitate putting creatures with enter the battlefield effects under Fiend Hunter because it just creates more of a problem when Fiend Hunter inevitably gets removed. And then Flame Tongue Kavu. Uh, it's a little redundant with Marath. I mean, he's dealing damage to creatures. He's dealing damage to creatures. I can see this guy being cut. He's not bad. He works well Kiki Jiki, I guess. And not a bad card. You can't complain. But if I had to cut something, I mean, this would be one of the cards I could see myself cutting. And then this is the rest of this removal is for artifacts and enchantments, mainly Lightning Greaves and um, oh god, what's the other one? Uh, Lightning Greaves and Lightning Greaves and starts with an S. Swiftfoot Boots. There we go. So those giving it hexproof and shroud are are bad for Marath because you can't target them, so you have to be able to deal with those right away. Uh, so Harmonic Sliver is here, and let's go through creatures first. Harmonic Sliver, um, Quasali Pride Mage. These are good cards on their own. And they also remove artifacts and enchantments, especially lightning greaves, which I hate, and aura shards. Aura shards is a good card, but in this deck it's really really good because of the ease of making creatures with Marath. Pay 1 mana, get a 1/1, and blow up your lightning greaves or any other enchantment I feel like blowing up. I mean, I don't have to be too picky. Marath's making plenty of creatures I could. I like to play this after they've played a few artifacts and enchantments, though. Unless that one artifact is lightning greaves, then I'll just play this to kill it. And this is a cool card from Gatecrash, and lets you do both destroy target artifact and enchantment. Nature's Claim. This is such a good card for 1 green mana. Destroy an artifact or enchantment. And the life gain really is negligible. And Wickerburrow Elder. He's basically a 4/4. Once you remove his counter, which I suggest you do, once you want to remove an artifact or enchantment. There's no acidic slime. There's no Sylvian Primordial. And that is because I don't like to get briberied that much, and I feel like whenever I get briberied, they're always taking like acidic slime or Sylvian Primordial to kill something of mine. So that leaves them to take other things which I could deal with easier. A blue deck can't really take Wickerburrow Elder to blow up my survival of the fittest. Which brings us to the next pile, which is tutoring. This deck has a ton of tutors. So the 3 things you want to tutor for are, well, 4 things I guess: artifacts, enchantments, creatures, and lands. So for creature tutoring, we've got Eldamri Skull, I guess we could pronounce it like that. I like it over a Worldly Tutor just because we're playing green-white. This gets it into your hand rather than the top of your library, so it feels like you're getting it sooner, as well as you're not using your draw step to get the card. So that's why I prefer this card. So for creatures, we have that. We've got Green Sun Zenith. And whenever I play Green Sun Zenith, I usually like to also play Dryad Arbor, which, yeah, Dryad Arbor, because turn 1, cast Green Sun Zenith for 0, and you get to ramp yourself into playing Marath on the second turn, possibly. Court of Calling is great. Once you make enough tokens with Marath, this card could cost 0 sometimes, especially with the curve being so low. I've had this costing 0 mana just using Convoke, tapping the creatures to use its ability. So good card in this deck, especially. So for creature tutor, we also have Birthing Pod. This deck does have a pretty good chain, though. It ends at around 5. It's not as insane as I've seen it be in Commander decks, but it's still nice. I think Survival of the Fittest, though, is a little better, just because sometimes, like, you have a I don't know, Bloodbraid Elf, let's say, and they've just played like two big creatures, or they've got a few creatures you need to kill. Sometimes you just discard, Bloodbraid Elf, which is a good card, and then you search for Nightshade Peddler and pair it with Marath and just shoot their creatures down. So this card is really Survival of the Fittest is a really good card in this deck, and ditto for Fauna Shaman. So same sort of deal. You have to tap him, and creature tutors. We got Natural Order. This card makes me want to add things like Sylvian Primordial or Terrastodon, or Craterhoof Behemoth. But usually, like, I'll Natural Order for this guy. And the reason why it's in here is just because its cost is so low. It's, 4 green, and its cost being a green creature, which Marath makes. So it's such a small cost to get any green creature directly into play. And it could help you set up, your Spike Feeder if you already have Archangel of Thunin. It could help you to get anything. I've had a game where I needed to get rid of I forget what enchantment it was, but I really needed to get rid of it, and actually and I already played Wickerburrow Elder. The only thing I was going to get was Harmonic Sliver. The person conceded. I don't know what they were thinking I was going to get, some kind of gigantic fatty, but no, I was just going to get Harmonic Sliver. And sometimes that's all you need. But yeah, part of me wants to just add huge fat green creatures for this card. We'll see. So creature tutoring, I also have Imperial Recruiter. Gets a lot of the same things that Relevart gets out of the graveyard. Anything with 2 or less, which is a fair bit of this deck. Usually with this card, what am I looking for? Nightshade Peddler is commonly sought after for obvious reasons, and I guess that's the one I tutor for the most, just because I love being able to use that. I love to be able to shoot down creatures with Nightshade Peddler paired with Marath. Oh, and sometimes Godok Teague. Sometimes I could smell a Wrath around the corner, and you really need, you really feel better with this guy out there. And so those are the tutoring for creatures. I think I covered them. Stoneforge. This deck really isn't like a Stoneforge deck. It's not like I'm playing a full swords package, but it does help you get out Skullclamp, which, if this was the only target for Stoneforge, that would be enough, because Skullclamp is that good in this deck. The fact that it could also get a sword, and it could also get something to give Marath Death Touch is also a reason why I play Stoneforge. So that's not the only artifact enchantment tutor I have. I also play Enlightened Tutor, and this you're usually searching for, if not a Soul Ring or Mana Crypt, a Skullclamp or a Basilic Collar are the usual targets, or even Survival of the Fittest. not a bad idea. And then lands. So we want to get Guy's Cradle online as soon as we can. And in that vein, we have Weathered Wayfinder and Night of the Relinquary. Weathered Wayfinder is great on the play when you're down a land for the first few turns, and you could just search for any land, put it in your hand. Night of the Relinquary. This guy gets huge with all the fetches and Strip Mine and Horizon Canopy. These things just end up in the graveyard, making this guy gigantic. Plus, he gets you Guy's Cradle, puts it right in play for you, untapped, and you could do some crazy things in a single turn. He's also one of the targets for Imperial Recruiter that I love to get. Is Nine of the Wrinkle. I have to get one of these guys online in the first few turns to get Guy's Cradle out. And then the last pile is with Planeswalkers. So we've got four. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but Xenagus. Xenagus. This guy is like Guy's Cradle number 2 with his +1 ability. I've never -6'd him, although I got really close to, and I'm not sure if I would have, even if I was able to. But his +1 is great. His 0 just sets up his +1, in my opinion, in this deck. So if I play him early, then I'm using his 0 ability to make a 2/2 haste, and it puts a little pressure on control decks, and it's okay. But the real reason is his +1, because with Marath you're making so many little tokens. This guy could give you tons of green and red mana, which is nice. Guy's Cradle only gives you green. So I wouldn't replace this guy with anything else. I think he's great in this deck. Whereas Damirati he's just so. And he costs 1 less mana. He does let you fight a creature, but I feel like if you have Marath out, you could pretty much fight whoever you want already. I mean, you don't have to remove the counters if you're using Damirati's ability, obviously, but he's just so. His +1 ability is hit or miss. And his -7 is obviously awesome, which I haven't gotten that emblem yet. I really want that emblem. Okay, in contrast, Garrick, Caller of the Beasts, new card from M14. His +1 reveals the top 5 cards of your library, and you put all the creatures revealed that way in your hand, and that is awesome because this deck does play a lot of creatures, 39 creatures, and your chances of hitting are much better than this guy's, obviously. And his ultimate is also insane. And then Garrick Wildspeaker, he is great for untapping your Guy's Cradle and giving your little tokens overrun. And I think that covers the deck. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Suggestions are welcome. And have a good one.